were as impressed with Drake Maye on Monday night as you've been impressed by him coming, up to this point. Why? What was impressive to you about Maye's game on Monday?
Just that he was in complete command. And this was the first time where, maybe if you squinted and it looks a little bit different, that you could see a lot of Brady in Drake Maye in this game, in terms of he was in complete command at the line of scrimmage. We talked about, the Bengals did some really nice things against him and flustered him. They had some free runners, things that he wasn't prepared for. He didn't realize guys were, not going to be picked up by the protection, and it sort of surprised them, and it led to some iffy plays. But as usual with Drake Maye, he takes that film, goes over it with Josh McDaniels, and then suddenly a weakness turns into a strength. And that's what we saw in this game, where he knew exactly what was going on. He knew pretty much exactly what coverage he was going to get. I would use the, after the Ben Brown tackle hold, it was like 2nd and 22, and he sees that the Giants are going to be in cover 4, and Kayshon Boutte hitches up his route perfectly on time. The Hunter Henry play where he sort of like pump faked the guy in the flat.
Yeah.
He knew that he was going to get some version of, I think there was a mix up in their coverage, but I do think it was like Tampa 2. So he understood where the weakness, he knew he had to hold that flat defender so that Hunter Henry could get open. He understood and was completely comfortable with an entire new left side of the line. He knew when Vederian Lowe was going to have help. He knew when he didn't. He knew when sort of a quick pass was called, and he needed to stay within the system and get rid of the ball and not hold on to the ball. He was terrific. I mean, I really had to nitpick in this game.
Yeah.
For the first time, to really find minus plays. In the first half, there was that one throw to Trayvon Henderson in the left flat, in the red zone, where it was behind him and low, and, caused basically like a no gain on that play, where if he puts it on his outside shoulder, Henderson catches it, maybe he's got a chance to nearly get in. In the second half, there was one where he threw deep, incomplete to Kayshon Boutte. I thought he had Hunter Henry as a better option underneath. There was the throw slightly behind Hunter Henry on the goal line. That was nearly, Collins Aikman on the telecast said, it could have been a pick six or whatnot. That wasn't placed perfectly correctly. And then I think on that same drive, there was a third down. He scrambled. He got hit. He kind of bailed on that a little bit early, and ended up taking an unnecessary hit. So that was it for the game. I mean, nothing major. That was the only pressure that he brought on himself. Despite having Brian Burns, of course, Abdul Carter sat out the first quarter for whatever reason. And by that time, it was 17-0. I mean, the game might have been different if Abdul Carter played from the beginning, because he was pretty much a menace in that game. I had him for like 5 pressures in the final 3 quarters. So, but Drake was this was a game where it just like he knew exactly what to expect. He delivered. He was on time. He was just masterful. And I was extremely impressed with him in this game. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. It is the holiday season, the best time of year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchup, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, what game to watch, there is one place where it feels good to be right. Prize Picks. I love sitting down with the app during the game. I will be doing that this weekend with the bye week. You get to watch. There's a bunch of really good football matchups this weekend. Of course, you have conference championship games. It's going to be awesome. I know Nick's going to be taking it all in, because that's what he does.
Yes,
I have feature alert.
I will be drinking beer, watching sports. That's my life, everybody.
There you go. Prize Picks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Is your fantasy season already over? My team is cooked. Yeah, they are. But with Prize Picks, I don't have to wait until next year's draft. Prize Picks lets you play fantasy football every week, pick your favorite players, and win when they hit their projections every week. No draft is required. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineup after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right.
Yeah, I mean, the plays that you mentioned are the ones that stood out to me. You know, I didn't necessarily give him a minus as I was watching the film yesterday. I didn't give him a minus on the ball that was, you know, just behind Hunter Henry on the goal line, but you could. Again, that's a nitpick, as you mentioned.
Right.
Don't quite remember. I do remember the bailing out early as well. Another play was, you know, I'm still trying to figure out how much of the responsibility at times when you have a free blitzer just coming at Drake Maye. There was one, I think it was a sack, where there was a free rusher where I didn't really know whether to dock him a half a point, or to dock him at all. But yeah, the Travion Henderson play in the flat in the red zone and the Hunter Henry being wide open instead of throwing a deep ball into double coverage to Kayshon Boutte were the two ones that really stood out to me. And other than that, you know, I personally had him for, I think, 8 or 9 positive plays. I thought there were, you know, a number of times that he made plays, maybe not as spectacular consistently through the game. You know, he's been so good. This is all relative. Where if you watch May, it's like, you know, some games he has 4 or 5 plays where you're like, oh my God. It wasn't necessarily that. There were maybe 1 or 2. I mean, the Kayshon Boutte touchdown throw was a good throw. The Kyle Williams touchdown throw was ridiculous. The pump fake, as you said, where he hits Henry for a chunk play was nice. There was another play to Mac Hollins where he anticipated pretty well and he hit Hollins. The 2nd and 21, I thought Kayshon Boutte's route was excellent on that 2nd and 21 to get him open. And there was a play earlier. We all look at the one pump fake where he hits Henry for that chunk play, but there was actually a play earlier in the game where he did the same kind of thing, where he pulled, I think he pulled the linebacker or safety in by just this slight little pump. And I forget who he threw it to instead, but it was a positive play.
It was Henry. It was Henry. It was in the red zone, and he moved the linebacker and then hit Henry, I think, down to like the 5-yard line.
Yeah, and you could really see it from the end zone cam, the pump fake. It's just it's very subtle, but he did it twice, and both times it opened up Henry even more than he was open to begin with. So, yeah, I thought he was really good.